Okay, so this is the second part to lesson 6, which talks more about evaluating an expression by replacing each variable with a given number. So this is going to encompass PEMDAS, because if you look here in the steps that I wrote you, simplify means using PEMDAS. So one of the biggest things here is I like to say, and I want you guys to write this down, is that you are going to use parentheses to do this. So parentheses kind of is a way to keep us organized while doing math. They're very helpful, especially with the substitution stuff. So I did give you steps for each example in this lesson. So the first step here is to replace all variables with parentheses. So let's do this step by step. So if I go to the first part here, anywhere I see a variable, right? So this is a variable. Remember, a variable by definition is just a letter. This is a variable, and this is a variable, right? What we're going to do is we're going to replace them with parentheses. So I'm going to make all the x substitutions blue. So we're going to use the squared's coming down, the plus is coming down. I have another x, so I'm going to replace that with blue. Then I have minus 12, that's from the original, divided by from the original, and then I'll use purple for y. So we're going to do y, and then that's also squared. Okay, so now it just makes it clearer as to what I'm going to substitute. So x, they told us, is 5. So anywhere I have a blue parenthesis or an x, right, I'm going to put a 5. So I have two x's, so I'm going to put 5 here, that was an x, and I'm going to put another 5 here. This is actually step 2. I jumped ahead a little bit. Then where we see y, we're going to use the purple, and we're going to plug in what y is equal to, which is 2. So where we see y, we're going to plug in 2. Okay, so now you have basically an expression that you can simplify. So we are going to, with PEMDAS, simplify. So the first thing we're going to do is parentheses. So I do have parentheses here, guys, but there's nothing or no terms to be simplified within them. So you can kind of skip P. Then we have E, exponents. So I do have two sets of exponents. So I have here 5 squared, which is 25. Then I have also 2 squared, which is 4. Everything else for now is just going to carry down. So plus 5, and now I can get rid of the parenthesis for the 5 because there's nothing attached to it, minus 12, and then that divided by. Okay, now I'm going to do multiplication or division. So in this problem, I only have division. So we're going to do 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And then again, everything else is just going to carry down. So 25 plus 15, plus 5. I don't know where I got 15 from. Minus 12. Oh my goodness. I'm losing it. And then we already simplified that, so it would just be minus 3. Okay, now we have addition and subtraction, and we work left to right. So 25 plus 5 is 30, and 30 minus 3 is 27. So again, I would still check this with my calculator. So I'm going to take my calculator, and then when we plug in, we're going to use this line here for the calculator. So parentheses 5 squared plus, again, I wrote parentheses, so I'm going to type that. What I write, I type, minus 12 divided by, parentheses again, 2 squared. And again, I get the right answer. I get 27, so I know I'm right. Okay, so let's try example 6, very similar to this, where we're going to follow our steps on the side, and we're going to replace variables with parentheses. So for this one, they actually already have parentheses around the variables, so we're just going to get rid of the variable now. And we're going to plug in what it's equal to. So I'm just setting this up for right now. So I'm using yellow for my x value and green for my y. So my x value is a 6. So I'm going to take 6 now and I'm going to plug it in. And my y value is green, so I'm going to use the green, and we have 2, so we're going to replace the y where there was a y with a 2. And now, that was step 2. Now step 3 is to simplify, and again, we're using PEMDAS. So when I simplify this now, I'm going to do parentheses first, and I do have parentheses, but inside of those parentheses, I do not have any operations, so I don't have anything to do. Then we have exponents. So I do have exponents. I have 6 squared, which is 36. Okay, then I'm going to bring down the divide, the 2, and the times 2, the multiply by 2. Then I work on multiplication and division, and this is a little complicated here. So multiplication and division, I have both. I have division here, and this is actually multiplication, right? I could go back up and put multiplication in between. So with multiplication and division, we work left to right. So left to right would mean that we divide first. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Then we bring down that times 2, right? And we're going to now multiply 18 times 2 to get 36. And again, if I put this in the calculator, I would do it from here, from this line, and we're going to use parentheses. So we're going to do parentheses 6 squared divided by 2 parentheses 2. And we do get 36, so we did it correctly. Okay, so now we kind of go to these practice problems, which are a review of what we did yesterday and today. So if we look at example 1 just says, what is the simplified form of 4 plus 10 divided by 4 plus 6? So just so you guys are aware, this is a multiple choice question, and it does not tell you to show your work. So when you're presented with a question where you don't have to show your work, I don't have to then show my work. I like to, just to get in the habit of it, so I will do both again. But if it was a Regents, you would not have to show your work. So if we did PEMDAS here, though, we would divide first. And when you divide 10 divided by 4, you get an answer of 2.5. And if I drop down everything else, I have a 4, a plus, and then a plus 6 at the end. And now I have all addition. So here you could just type this all into the calculator, and you could get 12.5, which is choice C. Okay, and then again, if I put it right in the calculator from the beginning, it would be 4 plus 10 divided by 4 plus 6, which is 12.5. Okay, so like in number 2, it says to, using PEMDAS, simplify this expression and show your work. So now we have to show the work, the steps. So again, you're using PEMDAS, so use this as a checklist. P stands for parentheses, which we do not have, so we are not going to do them. E stands for exponents, which again, I do not have, so I'm not going to do that. M stands for multiplication and division, and we work left to right. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply, because that's the first thing I see to the left. So 4 times 62 is 248. Everything else will just drop down, so divide by 3 plus 7. Now continue working left to right. So now we're going to divide. 248 divided by 3 actually gives us this long repeating decimal. So it would be 82 point, and I believe it's 666, right? It keeps going. But I still have also a plus 7, so plus 7. Okay, and now if I put that in the calculator, or I just think of simple math here, adding 7 to the whole number of 82 would give me 89. And then that 0.6 repeating just stays. So we're going to do 6, 6, 6, 6, and then I'll just prove it goes on forever with a dot, dot, dot. And that would be our answer. Now, again, I like to check, because like I would do this work and say and think in my head I was wrong because I'm getting a repeating decimal. So I like to always check it And we would do 4 times 62 divided by 3 plus 7. And when you hit enter, you do get 89.6 repeating. Notice at the end of your calculator, though, you get a 7, and that is solely because your calculator likes to round. So what it's doing is it's basically going on forever, but on the end of its screen, it's just rounding it to a 7. This number is still technically repeating, so you don't have to write down the 7 at the end here. Okay, and then the last one, example 3, there's actually a mistake, guys. So just so you know, none of these answer choices actually work. So you could cross them out right now, and then we're just gonna actually do the work and get an answer. So this is the evaluating, it's substitution again. So again, what I like to do is replace my variables with parentheses, that's step 1. So if I take this expression and I write it out, and wherever I see a variable, I give a parenthesis. So for the first, we have parentheses 2. Then I have an A, so I'm going to replace the A with a parenthesis. Notice now I have a double parenthesis to close that first one. The squared, then it's a B, so I'm going to close this out again. Minus 2C. And when I plug in, I'll use different colors. So for A, we're going to plug in 2, and we'll use green. For B, we're going to plug in 4, and I'll use yellow. And then for C, we're going to plug in 3, and I'll use the purple. And now I have an expression that I can simplify. So again, we're going to start with PEMDAS. So PEMDAS says to use parentheses first. So I do have something to simplify here inside the parenthesis. I have that 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, and everything else is just going to come down. So now that 4 is in the parenthesis because that was the answer. I still have a squared. I have a 4 here. Minus 2 and the 3. Now the next step in PEMDAS is to do exponents, which I do have. I have 4 squared, which is 16. And then again, everything else, we're just dropping it down. And then I'm looking for multiplication and division, which I have both of. I'm sorry, I have 2 multiplications, right? I have 16 times 4, and then I also have 2 times 3. So 16 times 4 is 64, and 2 times 3 is 6, and we're just going to carry down that minus sign here. And when I put that now in my calculator, 64 minus 6 is 58. So for this one, when you put this in the calculator, it's super important to pay attention to the way you're typing it in, because if you notice right here, you have a double parenthesis. When you type it in the calculator, you also have to type a double parenthesis. So again, take the time to try this. This is important. So if we're going to copy it from this line here, right, we're going to do parentheses 2, parentheses again 2. Then if you notice on your paper, you have double parentheses. So I'm hitting it twice. Squared, parentheses again, 4. And then we have minus 2, parentheses 3. And we do get 58. So again, this is a little bit of time, a little complicated to type in. Try this. If you don't get 58, look at the way it's written again and make sure it matches what you typed in. So that's the end of lesson 6, guys. This is a super helpful lesson. Please make sure if you didn't understand something that you either email me, rewatch the video at certain points. The answer key is also posted in the copy of notes section for your support.